All right, you freedom loving boys and girls, here we are, centerline. Mark, we're going to do the knot of the month for the month of March. Not sure what we'll title this. I know not what we do. Kind of rings a bell simply because I really don't know what this knot is called. And technically speaking, it might not be a knot because it's really just going to be bites on bites. But this technique, this knot, has a lot of great utility. You can use it for joining two ropes together in a pinch really quick. So think shoelaces, ropes, things like that. You can put tension on it, a lot of weight. It's very load bearing. Some of the things I was thinking of as I was prepping, you could use it to tie off your meat bag. If you were out in the woods and you were going to hang a meat bag, it would actually give you the ability to even do some additional tie offs to that. And we'll get to that. But even if you just broke your garbage bag, for example, oh, those ties aren't working. A tarp, that's the one where I think most people will recognize the utility of this knot, as if you were like, if your tarp, if one of your grommets blew out, or if you had a tarp that didn't have grommets or something you wanted to utilize field expedient, in lieu of a tarp, like a big piece of cloth or shelter, this would allow you to grab a corner of that and tie that off so you could secure it. So without further ado, I'm going to zoom in and, and I know these, and again, I'm not trying to be a knot channel video, but I do think there are just some basic things you should know. And I'm just going to kind of, as they come to my mind, go through a lot of these, going forward. Now, this material I'm using, and so before I want to go forward, I got two different pieces of, and this isn't yarn or thread or anything. These are those, the excess crap you get on your hoodies. So, I just cut one off and pull it all the way through. This material is super light. It takes up no, it doesn't cube out. It doesn't weight out. And you could crumple it up. And like if it's a high vis, like these oranges, you can cut these into small pieces and use these as trail markers. You've got a replacement shoelace, belt if you need, like there's a million different things to use this material for. So don't necessarily throw it away. All right, so here we go. Oh, and that's right. I keep forgetting. And that is right about there. I don't want to get too, yeah, there we go. Okay, so here is one of my pieces of material, right? Say this is going to be my main rope, for example. All right, and then so here's the end of my rope. Here's the other end of my rope that's just going to keep going until whatever the end places or my use of it. Let's just say I wanted to join it, let's just say these were my shoelaces and I wanted to join it to another rope at this point. So I just make a loop out of it. Just all I did is just made a loop out of it. And again, just keeping track of, that's the end that's going to go on. This is going to be my release, my knot release. I take the other material and I just lay it over, on the backside. So it's closest to me now. And how much excess you give, it's kind of up to you. You'll see in a second. And now this is the end that just keeps going down to the end of however long this segment of rope is. So another thing I just thought of how you could use this, whether you're using this in like, explosives, because or electrical work, because really you're just running a main line with trunk lines coming off it, but you could use it for something like that too. You put your mind to this, you could even figure out how to do all kinds of kind of weaving things. Weaving would be the better way of doing it, but so it's got a bunch of utility. That's what I'm showing you for. So again, here's my loop. There are my ends. This end keeps going on. This end is just kind of dangling there for right now. Now I take the end that's going to just go on forever. I wrap it over the rope I just put in there, come around the loop, and then dangle it straight down. See what I just did right there? Just dangled it straight down. That's it. And now on the back side, it's made a loop, right? So now that I've come around, I'm going to take this material, go over the gray cord, the gray rope, come back through that hole, and then pinch it back on itself. That's making a bite, and this made a bite. Take this end, pull it tight, and you should be able to see that. I'll do it in two different ways. There's one view right there. See, I just made a bite. It's the orange wrapped over the gray wrapped over itself, and I pulled it tight. This rope, now if these were the two ends, even if this was two vehicles, you can't get that to come loose, right? It just isn't going to do it, right? It's a bite on top of a bite. But if I do want it to come loose, Well, before I do that, now see with this free end right here, if you wanted to put a half hitch in there, because military guys, what is it? No knot is complete without a half hitch. You could put a half hitch there with that rope, but this rope you want to leave dangling because that's your release valve, right? So again, I'm cranking on this and I'm old and broken. So I'm not, I can't put as much force as I used to, but I just put a lot of force on that. And here's how easy it is. That's it. And that thing came loose like that, only because of that release knot, or, because it's just making a little safety release out of that, but the bite's on there. And if you pull it all the way through, it releases the bite that it had on the joining rope. Another example, and leave a comment. Again, I'm not trying to be a knot guy. That would have been better with the camera up here and me doing it down here and all that kind of crap, but just trying to show you, this is a good knot. It's very simple to learn. And it's got a lot of utility. And just as importantly, it's very simple to untie once, even under pressure, under load, right? So a lot of times, knots really constrict, and not all knots are equal. Some of them are really hard. I have really literally seen people who want to cut a rope because they can't undo the knot, and that's maybe not, depending on your worldview, to me, I'm like, yeah, I think we can undo the knot. Let's just work a little bit harder, or let's tie a better knot next time. All right, so this is my tarp. Let's just pretend. In reality, it is, there we go. Let's just do it justice. It's a really cool handkerchief from the Arizona Trail Association in Chappie. Whoop, whoop. I'm just going to pretend this is a big tarp for tonight. So I just make this is the end of my tarp, one of my corners, and I need to secure this so I can run a rope out or some 550 cord so I can secure my tarp. Right. So here's my rope. Okay. Same thing. I'm just making that this is the beginning of a bite, right? Just making a loop, taking an end of this material, placing behind it. Now, again, if you were going to try to make and I'm not suggesting this, but you could do it, in duress. If you needed to make a flotation device, like imagine this was even a garbage bag, a wet weather bag. This would be a good way to tie your wet weather bag. If you know the type of wet weather bags I'm talking about. I know a lot of them, you roll them and they seal nowadays and they're very good. But if you had, just even a garbage bag and you wanted to make an improvised flotation device, this would work. I would double wrap it and then, I'd fold this and then I'd have that folded in and I would do what I'm doing with that folded in. So I got more material on material to, ensure there's less, air escape through here. But for what we're doing, for the sake of our example, this is just going to be my tarp, but I'm like, oh, there's no grommets in it, or the grommets blew out. So I'm just going to make that loop, run my material behind it. Again, this is the end that's going to go and tie off to a tree or to a tent stake or whatever. I come over the backside, around my loop, and back over the backside. Take this material, go. Then this is the end that's going to keep going. I take the material over that, and then under the material that made the first part of the loop. Hopefully be able to show that off just a little bit here. You should be able to see that just yet. See how I just did it. And then here's the free end of that. So I'm just holding that for example. But once I get there, I take the end of my rope that's going to keep going on, or again, this is going to go to my tent stake, and just pull it tight. And then let me see what's the best spot here. Well, there's really not one great spot, but you see right there, the handkerchief just made a bite over this material, and this material made a bite over the handkerchief. And then again, same thing. This is going nowhere until I grab the release valve, and there it is. So it's a very effective knot. It's got all kinds of different uses. Especially if you're out there, let me just back it up. See, that's what I've done this already before, like I forget because I'm looking up here. The moment I look down there, I'm like, oh, it's too much me in the camera, but it's a really effective knot and it's got lots of practical use to it. And if you're creative, you'll find a million other examples or ways to use it other than what I just said right there, or the items I just demonstrated. So it's a simple knot. Anyone can learn it. And it fits in your hip pocket or your brain housing group, and you'll get a lot of use out of it. And, just even if you're just tying something, you just need to tie something really quickly just to, again, you imagine a ridge line or something. You just need to get get it tied in real quickly. It doesn't have to be fancy. You just do that. And if you've got buddies, and we all do, who don't know anything about knots, they're just going to look at you like you're some magician. Like, what did you just do? Oh, you mean this? And you pull it and the knot falls apart and you're like, okay, you do it. You're like, they're like, you son of a beep. So it's a good knot. Have fun with it. Hope you're enjoying these videos. Leave me a comment. Again, not trying to be the knot guy. I'm not the knot guy, but just having fun and showing you some other things that hopefully you can put in your hip pocket or your brain housing group. So leave me a comment, share, like, subscribe, comment on comments. You know the deal. That stuff really helps on the algorithm. So until then, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We'll see you again soon. Be good. Or until then, be good. Woo!